All right, people, welcome to vlog number 6. Today we'll be talking about the full moon in Cancer. And I'll share my screen. Let me just make sure I don't have... It's fine. Um, doo-doo-doo. Okay, here we go. So, you can see I have the full moon up. And the full moon is just when the moon is opposing the sun. And in this case, the full moon is conjunct Jupiter. And it doesn't matter what the orb is. Just the fact that they're co-present in the sign suggests that while the moon is full, she's going to pass over Jupiter. That's really what we're looking for. And I'm going to tell you a few stories as usual about what's happened. I'm going to focus on 3 events for the sake of brevity. The first event is about the fridge. Now, if you've watched my previous videos, you know that I live in a tiny house. And there's many things we don't have. We don't have a toilet. We don't have a sink. We don't have running water. We don't have Wi-Fi. We don't have a shower. We don't have basic amenities that most people have. And one thing we also don't have is a refrigerator. And when you don't have a fridge, you find a way to just keep food fresh by buying only enough for that day, for example. But unfortunately, still sometimes you miscalculate what you buy and when you're going to eat it, and so there's some waste. And additionally, it happens that, well, you can't store food that you've cooked, for example, and so then you have to rush to eat all of it. And so then I'm overeating, for example, because I don't have a place to store it and I'm afraid it's going to go to waste and I don't want to throw it away. Moreover, I have smoothies every single day. That is like my breakfast and my lunch. I have smoothies because it just works very well for me, and I love to have smoothies. Love. But on Sundays, the stores are closed. Therefore, if I'm going to buy frozen fruit on Saturday, by the time we get to Sunday, the frozen fruit has melted. And if you've ever made a smoothie with melted frozen fruit, it's icky. Okay, it doesn't work. So we had a couple solutions for that, like driving to my boyfriend's mom's to keep the frozen fruit in her freezer, and then he'd have to go in the morning, and it was just a big mess. So over time, and already since 6 months, I have wanted to get a freaking fridge, but I didn't have enough money because my astrology career is on its way, but I'm still in my first year of business, so things are moving along slowly. I earn just enough to pay for my basic needs, which is food. And I also was able to equip the house with some things that I like, but I just didn't get to the fridge. And in fact, the day that Jupiter entered Cancer, which was months ago, is the day that I was like, I had this idea about the fridge. And at that time, my boyfriend had even ordered a fridge for us with his money. But then we got in a fight, and he canceled the fridge because he felt like he's giving too much. And so I better wait until I have enough money to buy the fridge. And so that's where we've been since then. Like, it didn't come up, but I keep thinking about the fridge. It's on my mind. Like, every day I see a new reason that I need the freaking fridge. Now, the full moon comes along, and all of a sudden, there is this energy that naturally comes in me. And that energy says, go on eBay. Here in Germany, it's called Kleinanzeigen, never mind, and look for a mini fridge. And I immediately found the fridge that I would like to have from a woman named Elisaveta, which, by the way, also reminds me of the place I come from because it's a very like Eastern Europe name. So I felt like, yeah, that's the person I want to do business with. And you can imagine why Jupiter gets picked up in this full moon. Because the fridge, for me, would represent a tremendous expansion. In a household that doesn't have a fridge and has to do with the bare minimum, the fridge represents a level of comfort that is unprecedented. And I've been waiting for that for a long, like, it's been my dream just to have a fridge, which appears to be something so basic, but for me, it's like such an opening. It feels like finally I can freeze my fruit and not have to worry about Sundays. Like it just opens a whole new world for me. So that this is exactly the day that I get the idea and in the same instance contact the seller is the full moon, the realization, the culmination of something. Conjunct Jupiter in Cancer. And you can think on Cancer also about the fact of being able to preserve the food because Cancer is life-giving. And so it extends the shelf life of the herbs, of the vegetables, of the cooked food, of the frozen fruit. So there's Jupiter in Cancer, adding the cooling element because Cancer is a cold sign and so is Capricorn. And you might ask yourself, well, what about the Capricorn piece of it? I'm not going to go too much into detail, even though the more I talk about it, of course, the more aspects I can show you, but I'll give you one part. When I had messaged Elisaveta, I offered her 50 euros. And I did that because the other sellers were offering for about that much and she had no listed price. So I thought that was fair. And very coldly, without any additional fluff, she replied to me, "Hello, no, 210 euros." So then I had to deal with feeling like, oh, do I really have enough? Because it's not like I have that much money, but I do have 210 euros. So do I really want to give that much? And the second part of it was I asked my boyfriend, would he be willing to front me the money so I could have the fridge right away? Because the money's not yet landed in my bank, it's on its way, but I wanted to immediately buy the fridge. And he said no, because in the past I have been unreliable about paying him back for stuff that he's given me. So he has a bad taste about that. And so he felt like he's not doing me a huge disservice by making me just wait a little bit longer until I can officially completely make that purchase on my own. And you can see that kind of hands-off attitude is exactly the nature of cold and dry Capricorn. Okay, second event. I was recently invited to a family group chat, two of them, in fact, because I have my mom's parents have separated and they each have a new family. Never mind. By the way, this full moon is happening in my third house, the third house of group chats. And in Cancer, it's a family group chat, yeah? And there was the happy Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, whatever. And then there was something very interesting happening on the full moon. There was a video of my grandma with her grandchild who's recently been born. I guess he's no more than one. And in that video, she's speaking to him in English. Keep in mind that I'm Bulgarian. I was born and raised in Bulgaria, and so was everyone in my family, except for this child who was raised in the United States. And my aunt and uncle, of course, because it's their nature to do so, comment in the group chat asking, why, Grandma Capricorn, are you speaking to the baby Cancer in English and not in Bulgarian Cancer? The commentary was about that child should not lose the contact with its roots. It should not experience the erasure of Bulgarian. it better be included. And even if mom and dad can't be the ones to make that happen, then at least grandma and grandpa should speak to the baby in Bulgarian. Just so that the baby at least has some memory of experiencing Bulgarian, which for me, honestly, I see it differently, and it's so much more complex, but that is the stance that my aunt and uncle have. And there's Jupiter, because Jupiter is about people's beliefs and philosophies, so how they reason and how they see things. And so here we're highlighting the philosophy of maintaining heritage, maintaining the Bulgarian language. So there's the full moon conjunct Jupiter in Cancer, because that event was completely encapsulated in the time frame of the moon being in Cancer, and no more thereafter. Yeah? Okay. Third event, final event. Um, my aunt called me, another aunt already, an aunt that lives in Germany, as I do. But she lives in northern Germany, I live in southern Germany. And I put her on speaker. My boyfriend was around. And she delivered a bomb, which I totally did not expect. I didn't see that coming. She told me she requests that I stay with her and her children for 3 weeks, starting soon, starting next week. The reason for that being that her brother, who she lives with and shares the responsibilities with, is going on vacation or he's going on a trip. I didn't really understand, but he's leaving and he's going to be gone. And this is a period where she is having a particularly tough time emotionally and she doesn't feel too safe and secure. She's kind of vulnerable. And so she feels that she would really like to have companionship in the presence of another family member. And she even told me that if she hadn't called me, she would call my mom. And she would ask my mom, but she doesn't want to really do that because my mom lives in the United States. And so that's too much of a bother for my mom. So why not reach out to me? Of course, it makes good sense. So again, you can see the third house for two reasons. One of all, this is a phone call that I'm experiencing. Secondly, like brothers and sisters, cousins and aunts and uncles live in the third house. Third or fourth house, both. Doesn't matter which. And of course, that brings up questions for my partner and I about the disruption to our family life here, but also the expansion of connecting with my family that lives in northern Germany by visiting and staying with them. And so you can see that exactly on the full moon conjunct Jupiter, I received this offer. And it's not really an offer, actually, it's a strong request. She's requesting my audience, my presence. And for sure I'm gonna go. I can't say no to such a request. Um, and you can see inevitably that's going to lead to a lot more family contact between her and I and her kids. So that's what I'm going to be doing until the end of January, but not just yet. Okay, let's pause there. Um, as usual, I hope that made sense. I think it made very good sense. And I'm wondering now that you've seen this, if you can make some connections to the full moon conjunct Jupiter in Cancer in your life. And when I was live streaming yesterday on TikTok, there was a lot of people sharing their stories, and I was really amazed by some of the stories they were sharing. I guess I won't say any here just because I don't know them that well, so that would be kind of weird and wrong. But I know that you're all experiencing something similar to what I am. It's not going to be the same, but thematically, it's similar. So I will leave it at that. and I will see you in the next vlog. All right, my friends. Until next time.